Mocha is a vampire girl with daddy issues so severe he literally sealed her true self behind a rosario. Her father dumped her in a monster academy where she spent her whole life getting hated by everyone. One day, she meets a loser boy from the human world who treated her like a normal girl for the first time. Eventually, Mocha falls in love with him and gets so hooked on his blood that she can't stop biting his neck every single morning. However, before any of this, at the end of middle school, Tsukun fails to get sufficient marks to graduate to high school. Despite his 8 brain, his mom excitedly yaps to him that they have found a new high school for him which will take him in. They inform him that Tsukun's father ran into a mysterious priest when he was rushing home and that the priest dropped a school flyer belonging to the Yukai Academy which was picked by his dad, due to which his parents think that they can get him enrolled in the very same school. Soon enough, Tsukun takes a bus that takes him to Yukai Academy. The bus driver warns him to be careful at the new school and drops him off at a creepy-looking place. He then wanders through the forest, and even passes a cemetery to look for the school. Suddenly a girl in a bicycle collides straight into him and rolls down on the ground. The cherry boy starts bleeding from his nose when he accidentally touches the girl, and the scent of his blood attracts the girl. She informs him out of nowhere that she is a vampire and then bites down on his neck. After she is done feasting on him, she introduces herself as a freshman at Yukai Academy named Mocha and asks him whether he hates vampires. He reveals that he doesn't dislike them, and she jumps at him in glee. Later, the class teacher welcomes all the students to Yukai Academy and declares right off the bat that the school is exclusively for monsters. Tsukun realizes that he has somehow gotten admission into the wrong school, and Nikonome teacher informs everyone about the school rules, that they cannot transform into their true forms and cannot tell each about their forms either. She also reveals that any human within their school will be killed, and just then, Mocha arrives at the class. Later after the class, she remains stuck to Tsukun's side like glue while the other students ogle after her hot looks. They both have a drink together, and one of Tsukun's classmates named Saizu approaches Tsukun. He hurls him down on the ground and asks him not to hang around Mocha. He then throws him against the vending machine and Mocha rushes to his side. Later, Mocha reveals to Tsukun that the rosary around her neck protects her from turning into a terrifying vampire, and then jumps on him again as she calls him her first true love. She explains that she has never directly drunk anyone else's blood other than his, and then leans on him again, but he becomes scared and pushes her away. He then runs away from her and decides to leave the school because he cannot tolerate being among monsters. As he is leaving the school, Mocha finds him at the school gates and begs him not to go. She tells him that humans used to bully her a lot in junior high, due to which she always felt alone and started hating humans. Tsukun finally reveals to her that he is a human as well and asks her to stay away from him. He then runs away after calling her a monster, and she runs after him in the forest. She runs into Saizu, who declares that he isn't letting her go, and then transforms into an orc, which is his true form. Tsukun hears her cry out, but he wonders whether he can even do anything as a human. Meanwhile, Saizu covers Mocha in his disgusting-looking spit and grabs her leg as he prompts her to transform into a vampire as well. He then hurls her against a tree, and Tsukun rushes to the scene to save her. Saizu smacks him aside easily and sends him flying down a hill, so Mocha jumps after him. She rushes to Tsukun's side and he pushes her to a side to face Saizu, who has jumped after them. He declares that he wants to be Mocha's friend as well, and Saizu smacks him to a side for saying such cringe stuff. Mocha rushes to his side again and he tells her that he likes her before accidentally removing her rosary. Immediately a bunch of bats lunge at her and she transforms into her true self. The bats fly away, leaving a red-eyed silver-haired S-class vampire, which is actually Mocha's dark true self. Saizu begins to tremble when he senses her demonic aura, and the new Mocha sends him flying against the hill by kicking at him once. Afterwards, Tsukun wakes up on Mocha's lap and learns that the bus only comes to pick anyone up once during a month, which means that he is forced to stay at the school. Mocha then wipes his face and bites into his neck like a creep. Tsukun starts to live in a dormitory which is filled with monsters. He slowly becomes accustomed to his new life, and as he walks towards school, Mocha rushes to his side, which makes the other students envious of him. She then grabs his hand and runs away with him, which makes them even more envious of him. Mocha advises him to consult her whenever something is troubling him and then bites his neck, making an excuse that she didn't have any breakfast. He pushes her away and whines to her that he isn't her breakfast. He then runs away to a side and thinks about how he is in the world of monsters surrounded by so many supernatural creatures. A girl named Kurumu collapses on her knees in front of him and he rushes to her side to help her out. He then takes her to the infirmary while a sinister smile plays on her lips. Mocha feels bad for forcing herself on Tsukun and decides to apologize to him. Meanwhile, Tsukun is escorting Kurumu to the infirmary when she falls on him again. She reveals that she has always been weak since birth and then asks him to look into her eyes. As he stares into her eyes, she asks him to become her friend and he feels enchanted by a spell. He then hugs her tight and Mocha rushes to the scene just then. Tsukun keeps hugging her despite Mocha's presence, and when Kurumu suggests going to class, he turns and walks away with her. Mocha tells him to stop, but he reminds her that she will only eat him as breakfast before leaving her behind. Later in class, Mocha and Kurumu have the showdown of the century as they stare each other down. After class, Kurumu approaches Mocha in the hallway in front of all the students and reveals her true intentions, that her grand plan is to seduce all the boys of the academy to make the ultimate harem. She thinks that Mocha is a hindrance in her plan since the boys are going after her instead, and therefore, she wants to steal Tsukun from her in order to fully defeat her. She even reveals that she is a succubus, and Tsukun approaches Mocha just then to apologize to her for the morning. Before he can do anything, Kurumu uses her eyes to enchant him again and to tell him that Mocha is only using him as breakfast. Tsukun tells Mocha that she has probably befriended him for selfish reasons, and she runs away crying while Kurumu delights in success. Later, Tsukun and Kurumu are at the infirmary when he decides to find Mocha to apologize to her, but Kurumu uses her abilities to stop him once again. Meanwhile, Mocha is wondering about what happened when she heard a voice from her rosary telling her that Kurumu is actually a succubus who can use her charm to seduce men. She warns her that Kurumu can even kiss Tsukun to drain his energy and he may end up dying. Back at the infirmary, Kurumu climbs on top of Tsukun to kiss him, but he hugs her tightly to stop her. He starts whining that he said a lot of hurtful things to Mocha earlier, and Kurumu decides to teach him a lesson to shut him up. Two huge wings appear on her back, and just then, Mocha barges inside the room. She slams into Kurumu and sends her flying outside the window. Kurumu extends her tail and grabs onto Tsukun. She then pulls him outside and Mocha jumps to grab him, due to which she gets dragged with them. The weight of the two of them causes Kurumu to drop them on the ground, and she lunges at them to kill them. Mocha pushes Tsukun to a side and begs him to take off her rosary. He tries to pull the rosary away but fails at this one simple task, and Mocha hugs him close to protect him. He suddenly feels like a man and pulls off her rosary, which makes her transform into her true self. Mocha grabs Kurumu's tail and sends her flying against the tree, which defeats her in an instant. She then approaches her to rip off her wings, but Tsukun jumps in between and stops her. She then puts the rosary back on herself and returns to being the normal Mona. The next morning, Tsukun and Mocha are walking to school when Kurumu intervenes their lovey-dovey walk and declares that she has decided to make Tsukun her partner since she has fallen for his charms. Soon the midterms arrive, and as expected, Tsukun barely passes the exams while Mocha comes 13th in the whole grade. She rushes towards him on seeing him and offers to study together with him the next time. The other students envy Tsukun for being with a hottie, and at the same time, the topper of the grade named Yukari also watches Mocha from afar. Some students approach Yukari and taunt her for skipping grades just to join the Yukai Academy to wear ridiculous second-rate cosplay clothes. She sneakily uses her magic to make some pits fall on their heads, and when they become violent at her, Mocha steps in and tells them to stop bullying girls. Later, Yukari eats lunch with Mocha and Tsukun and declares to them that she loves Mocha more than anything. She even jumps on Mocha and boldly asks to go out with her, so Mocha agrees to accompany her as a friend. They both walk through the hallways with Yukari hanging on to Mocha's big talons, and Tsukun rushes up to them to stop such obscenities. Yukari comments that she knew he would come in her way and challenges him to a match. She then uses her magic to throw brooms on him and declares that she is actually a witch who can do magic. Her bully classmates also end up hearing her announcement and decide to teach her a lesson, since revealing one's identity is against the rules. Later, Tsukun gets first aid from a girl named Kurumu and whines to her about her problems. She feels glad that Yukari is causing him problems with Mocha and seizes the opportunity to make a move towards him by crawling towards him. Outside the window, Yukari makes a magic voodoo doll with Tsukun's hair and uses it to force Tsukun to move according to her will. Mocha then barges inside the room and finds Tsukun on top of Kurumu. He tries explaining the situation to her, but due to the forced voodoo doll movement, he pulls down Kurumu's plot instead. They all hear Yukari outside and discover the truth that she was forcing Tsukun's movements all along. Tsukun yells at Yukari and declares that she should be more responsible, but Mocha takes her side and defends her childish behavior. Tsukun informs Yukari that she will be left all alone if she keeps doing such things, and Yukari runs away after throwing more brooms on him. She runs into the class president and his goons next, who surround her and declare that they have to punish her. Mocha blames Tsukun for not understanding Yukari and then runs out to find her. After she is gone, Kurumu informs him that witches are actually half-breeds who aren't accepted by the humans or the monsters, due to which they live a wretched life. The bullies throw Yukari in a forest and transform into lizard men. Yukari recalls that her classmates always talked behind her back, and she would then play tricks on them to teach them a lesson, due to which she was despised more by them. She begins to use a spell on the ugly lizard men, but one of them bites her wand and crushes it to bits. The monsters decide to eat her, but just then, Mocha arrives at the scene and tells them to stop. She consoles Yukari that she can ask her for help and that she isn't alone in this world. Yukari runs into her arms crying, and one lizard man attacks them but gets pushed back by Tsukun, who arrives at the scene as well. He gets scratched by the lizard man as well and then apologizes to Yukari for leaving her alone. The lizard man rushes at them to attack them, and Kuruma flies to the scene just then. She grabs Tsukun and Yukari and deposits them at a safe distance from the monsters. Together they all face the lizard men, and Tsukun ends up breaking Mocha's rosary once again, which awakens her true vampire form. She takes 2 seconds to dispose of the lizard men and then kicks the third one across the lake after calling him a low-level trash. After she is done, Tsukun assures her that she isn't lonely anymore, which makes her start crying. Soon afterwards, she apologizes to the whole class for her earlier pranks and starts behaving better. One day, Mocha and Kurumu arrive at the class only to find Yukari inside, who declares that she has now fallen in love with Tsukun. One day, Tsukun keeps thinking whether he should keep on living between monsters so casually, and he zones out. The teacher calls him out to read the book out loud, but rather than listening to her, he gets up and asks himself loudly what he should do. After the class, he confides in Mocha that he was spacing out earlier, but she approaches him to drink his blood. Kurumu jumps between them and scolds Mocha for drinking Tsukun's blood so often. She declares that she will also keep using her powers on him, which makes Mocha pull the both of them apart. Later, Tsukun runs into some guys who claim that they are from a love-love alliance and are the leaders of the fan clubs of Mocha, Kurumu, and Yukari. They start to hit him because he is their natural enemy, and Yukari spots them ganging up on him, so she uses her magic to throw some material on her. The other harem girls arrive as well and tell the bullies to stop bothering their love boy Tsukun. Yukari uses her magic to throw brooms on them, but the brooms end up hitting Tsukun instead while the bullies run away. Later that night, Tsukun wonders whether it's alright for him to rely on the girls to protect himself. He even calls out on his cell phone asking someone for advice, even though there is no signal at the Yukai Academy. Meanwhile, the 3 creep lords fangirl over Mocha, Yukari, and Kurumu at their fan club like a bunch of freaks. The next day, Yukari gets her photos taken secretly by one of the guys while another one stalks Kurumu through the school. The girls confide in each other during the lunch break and discuss whether they should inform the teacher about the stalking. They then decide to escort Tsukun on the school grounds since the bullies can appear to attack him. Mocha comments that Tsukun definitely needs the protection considering he cannot attack anyone, and Tsukun walks away after hearing her comment. Mocha runs after him and apologizes to him if she hurt his feelings, but he argues with her that he also wants to protect the girls and not be a useless burden on them. Later that evening, he packs his bags and decides to leave the school. Yukari is sweeping the grounds when she spots him leave, and she quickly rushes to inform Mocha about his departure. Meanwhile, Tsukun arrives at the bus station and begins to wait for the bus to appear. The bullies approach him just then and transform into their real forms. They attack him together and beat him up. After a moment, the harem girls appear and save Tsukun from getting beaten up. Kurumu flies straight into the bullies while Mocha rushes to Tsukun's side to ask him whether he is alright. He begins whining that the girls are rescuing him again, and Mocha slaps him in tears. She reminds him that they are friends, and the others assure him that he has always protected them and consoled them, due to which they want to return the favor. The bullies approach the girls this time and corner them with their disgusting monster forms. Tsukun calls them shameful and makes them turn towards him instead. They all merge together to form one huge monster, and the monster then smacks Tsukun away easily like he is a fly. Tsukun still gets up and declares that he will protect everyone. He then ends up pulling Mocha's rosary away once again, which causes her to transform into her true self. Kurumu then kicks the monster while Yukari uses her magic to make the monster trip. Mocha kicks the monster and sends it flying, which also demerges it. Mocha informs Tsukun that he cannot leave because he is her food source, and the other girls also plead with him not to leave. He reveals that he had just come to the station to post some letters, and just then the bus arrives at the station. Tsukun gives the driver a bunch of letters and then heads back to school with the girls. One day, Tsukun daydreams that he wins a soccer match and lets Mocha feed on him after the match. She then sucks on his blood greedily, and Tsukun wakes up from his daydream when Mocha feeds on his blood in real life outside of the school. He wonders whether she knows about his feelings while she picks her bag and heads off to school. During the school, the teacher prompts everyone to join a school to blend better with the human society. After the class, different clubs invite Mocha and Tsukun to their club, but they turn out to be too spooky. Tsukun comes across a swimming club filled with girls with big knockers and decides to expand his harem by joining it. He thinks of flexing his swimming skills to Mocha and even daydreams that Mocha will kiss him once he swims a lap for her sake. Mocha hesitates to join the club and the swimming club president named Tomo motivates Tsukun to join the club alone, which makes Mocha declare that she will join the club as well. At the pool, Tomo gives Tsukun swimming lessons by sticking close to him while Mocha stays at a side where the water cannot touch her. She becomes fed up with all the touching and accuses Tsukun of flirting. Tomo taunts her that she should leave if she cannot even snatch her man, and she storms away in anger. Tsukun is about to follow her, but Kurumu and Yukari jump at him. They declare that they are going to join the swimming club as well, and Yukari tries to do the same despite having no knockers, and both girls argue with one another over Tsukun. Meanwhile, Mocha walks over to an alley and her dark self warns her through the rosary to not approach the water again, since water is every vampire's weakness. The swimming club hosts a swimming competition in which Kurumu leads one team while Yukari leads another team. Kurumu sings a song based on her relationship with Tsukun, and both teams participate in different competitions in which Yukari wins a few of them due to her small plot size. Kurumu also wins a few competitions, and at one time, Yukari also sings a song dedicated to Tsukun. Meanwhile, Mocha's dark self warns her not to head back to the swimming club and to forget about Tsukun, who doesn't care about her. Mocha argues with her that she still wants to go to the club to stay by Tsukun's side. At the swimming competition, Tsukun decides to look for Mocha, but Tomo stops her and gives him swimming lessons to distract him. She then confesses to him that she has been fascinated by him since he joined the school, but the Riz Lord apologizes to her and turns around to look for Mocha. Suddenly Tomo and her friends from the swimming club show their true forms and reveal themselves to be mermaids. Tomo's friends begin to suck the guys' energies to drain them, while Tomo confesses to Tsukun that mermaids like them lure out guys to feed on them in order to survive. She is about to take a bite out of him when Mocha rushes to the scene, and seeing that her harem lord is in trouble, she jumps into the pool. Immediately she begins to suffer from water and then sinks into the pool because she cannot swim. Kurumu holds back Tomo while Tsukun rushes to save Mocha. He manages to swim to her side and pulls off her rosary, which transforms her into her dark self. The dark Mocha transforms the pool into a whirlpool, but the mermaids throw water at her, which weakens her a lot. Kurumu kicks away a few mermaids while Yukari throws some buckets at a few mermaids to help out the dark Mocha. Tomo lunges at the dark Mocha and Mocha in return jumps into the air, which lures Tomo out as well. She then kicks Tomo back into the pool and defeats her with one kick. Afterwards, she slaps Tsukun hard and scolds her for not caring about the actual Mocha's feelings before walking away. The next day, Mocha doesn't come to school, which makes Tsukun really worried for her. He finds her after school and declares that he won't join the swimming club because he doesn't want to harm her anymore. A chick named Shizuka overhears their conversation and invites them to the newspaper club. Both of them accept her offer, and the other harem girls Yukari and Kurumu also decide to join the same club. Another bright day, Tsukun walks to school and Mocha begs him to let her drink his blood right off the bat. Despite his protests, she bites his neck and has her breakfast out in the open. When she is done, Kurumu arrives at the scene and reminds him that they are in the same club. Yukari also arrives, but Kurumu keeps Tsukun away from her as she makes up her mind to deepen her relationship with him in the newspaper club. Later at the club, the teacher welcomes all of them and introduces them to a second-year member known as Jinai. He sweeps into the class with flowers and gives each girl a bunch of them. After the teacher is gone, he instructs everyone to come up with any school news that they have, since the club is responsible for publishing the news on the campus. Kurumu shares with everyone that there is a peeping Tom on the campus who keeps peeping on the girls but has never been caught before. They all decide to find the culprit and even publish posters to get any information that they can from the public. Jinai makes the older girls paste the posters high up on the wall, and when they are both trying to stick the posters, he squats down to take a good look at them. Tsukun spots him staring at the girls and squats down with him to check what he is looking at. Once he realizes what Jinai is doing, he scolds him for looking at the girls like that, and Jinai turns the tables around by blaming Tsukun for staring at the girls instead. He tells the girls who scold him for acting shamelessly, and Mocha walks away in anger. Later, when Mocha is on her own, the dark self warns her to be aware of Jinai since he has a strong, powerful aura which is emitting from him. The next morning, Mocha doesn't talk to Tsukun to teach him a lesson about leering at her plot armor. Meanwhile, Jinai is peeping at a group of girls in a changing room when he overhears them saying that they saw Mocha kiss Tsukun on the neck. The girls realize that someone is peeping at them and they look outside to find the culprit, but only spot Tsukun walk by the spot. Later, Tsukun is confronted by Mocha and Kurumu and he tries explaining that it's all a misunderstanding, but they do not believe him. Meanwhile, Jinai decides to blame Tsukun for all the perverted stuff in order to strand him from Mocha and get close to her. He approaches Tsukun in guise of a friend and assures him that he believes in his honesty. He then makes him climb on a drum to look inside a room, and Tsukun follows his instructions only to end up peeping at a room full of changing girls. Jinai snaps his picture just then to blackmail him, and Tsukun ends up getting discovered by the girls inside. They all surround him and accuse him of being the serial peeping Tom that they were looking for. Mocha also comes across the ruckus, and Tsukun tries telling everyone that it's a misunderstanding, but no one listens to him, and even Mocha runs away from the scene. The girls then beat up Tsukun for being a certified stalker. Kurumu and Yukari also hear about the incident and decide to investigate properly. Later, Jinai approaches Mocha and sneakily informs her that Tsukun is the peeping Tom. He then tries to get close to her and even kiss her, but she pushes him away and declares that she believes in Tsukun. He then shows her pictures of Tsukun peeping at the girls, but despite the pictures, she informs him that she believes in the Riz Lord Tsukun. Jinai desperately lies for his life that Tsukun definitely moved the drums in order to climb up and sneak on the girls, and his comments get overheard by Kurumu and Yukari. They remind him that the pictures do not show any drums in them and reveal that a teacher saw him moving the drums to a crime scene, which implies that he is the culprit instead. The girls also find a dozen of pictures on Jinai of other girls changing, and he finally confesses that he is the serial peeper. He declares that he will make Mocha his woman by force and transforms into a werewolf. Tsukun rushes to the scene and breaks Mocha's rosary, which is the only mid-move he knows. Mocha transforms into her dark self and attacks Jinai, but he is too fast for her due to the presence of the full moon over their heads. Still, Mocha seizes an opportunity when the moon gets covered by the clouds and tightly holds on to Jinai. She then smacks him hard on the ground and sends him flying over the railing, which defeats him for good. The next day, the newspaper club publishes an article exposing the true identity of the serial peeper, and the girls beat up Jinai for peeping on them. One day, the girls from the newspaper club distribute newspapers to the students, and a lot of students gather to read the newspaper. Mocha suggests throwing a celebration in honor of the success of their club, and as they are discussing the arrangements, a random girl observes all of them. The girl named Shirayuki asks Tsukun for a newspaper as well and even calls him cute before walking away. During the class, the same girl walks in the class, and the teacher informs everyone that Shirayuki has been absent from the school due to some reasons, but she will be attending the class from now on. After class, Mocha and Kurumu head off to gather snacks for their celebration. After they are gone, Shirayuki approaches Tsukun and shows him a scrapbook which contains old newspapers. She reveals that she likes the newspaper a lot, due to which she has been collecting them due to the same reason. Meanwhile, other teachers warn Shirayuki's homeroom teacher that she should keep an eye on Shirayuki and not let her influence the other students. Shirayuki takes Tsukun to a lake where he throws some stones in the water on her request. He then decides to go to the club to have the party with his harem girls, but Shirayuki stops him by hugging him from behind. A ring of smoke begins to swirl around them as she tells her that she will deal with Mocha in order to stop him from going back to her. Meanwhile, Mocha is waiting for Tsukun to arrive when Shirayuki arrives in his stead. She jumps on her and begins to choke her as she tells her to die and let Tsukun become hers. Shirayuki begins to release ice from her body, and when Mocha smacks her face, Shirayuki reveals that she is just an ice formation and not real. Outside the club, Tsukun gets attacked by Shirayuki, who reveals to him that she is actually an ice woman who can control ice. She starts to freeze him on the spot as she declares her love for him, but just then, Kuruma flies to the scene with Mocha. She reveals that she saved Mocha in the nick of time and then collides with Tsukun, which breaks the ice around him. Tsukun then jumps between the girls to stop any further attacks, and Shirayuki starts crying as she assumes that he is rejecting her. She uses her powers to disappear from sight, and all of a sudden the ice breaks from underneath Tsukun and the girls, which causes them to fall in the cold water. Later, they all get out and huddle together in the club room in a semi-frozen state. They hear a commotion outside and discover that Shirayuki has frozen a teacher, due to which all the staff is looking for her in order to punish and expel her. Tsukun blames himself for rejecting her ruthlessly and runs out to look for her. He finds her outside the school and advises her to apologize to the teachers in order to avoid expulsion. Shirayuki realizes that he doesn't understand her and starts crying as she releases a storm of ice. Just then, Tsukun's harem girls rush to the scene and show him some of Jinai's pictures, which prove that Shirayuki was actually by the teacher, due to which she attacked him in defense and ended up freezing him. Shirayuki's power becomes berserk and she forms ice sculptures of herself who approach the girls to attack them. Suddenly, Shirayuki slips and almost falls down in the lake, but Tsukun grabs her at the last second. He asks her to become her friend, and just then Mocha also runs to his side to help him out. He tries grabbing her hand but accidentally pulls off her rosary, which causes him to transform into her dark self. The dark Mocha smashes all the ice sculptures by using her dark aura and then hurls Tsukun and Shirayuki on the ground. She kicks Shirayuki to the ground and scolds her for being such a little spineless wuss. Afterwards, Shirayuki informs the others that she has decided to change herself, and she even cuts her hair to start from somewhere. Yukari and Kurumi think that Jinai has turned a new leaf by helping them out with Shirayuki's case, but they discover some peeping Tom pictures on him which proves them wrong. They beat him up again for being a freak while Shirayuki observes Tsukun flirting with Mocha. One day, the new smoking hot maths teacher named Ririko questions Tsukun about a problem in the class and he informs her that he doesn't know the answer. She scolds him for not focusing in her class while he keeps focusing on her plot. After the class, he begs Mocha to teach him maths to help him out and she asks him to come to her room later that night to study together. He realizes that he cannot focus on studying if he comes to her room and she jumps on him to drink his blood in response. Kurumu interrupts their cringe bonding session and offers to teach him instead. Yukari rushes to the scene and makes the same offer to him, followed by the new harem member Shirayuki, who asks the girls to teach her as well. Finally, Tsukun and the girls have a study session together in which they all study together. Tsukun gets a lot of help from Mocha's well-written notes and he compliments her endlessly, which makes her embarrassed. After the session, Ririko spots the two of them together and learns about their study group, so she declares that Tsukun can never learn from a bunch of brainless apes. She invites him to come to her remedial classes the next day before sauntering off. The next day, the harem girls try convincing Tsukun to not go to Ririko, but he wants to pass the first-year grade in order to advance to the next level with the girls. He heads to Ririko's remedial class and finds her in a weird-looking outfit which embarrasses him a lot. She hits his cheek with a whip and even licks his nose as she assures him that she will make him learn everything quickly. The next day, Yukari and Kuruma run into Tsukun and notice that he is revising maths formulas on his own like a deranged robot. Later, Mocha approaches Tsukun and tries to give him her notebook which can help him study, but she finds him in a non-responsive zombie-like state. Ririko snatches the notebook from her and pushes her on the ground while throwing her notebook away roughly. She blames her for distracting Tsukun all the time and then takes him away. After school, Tsukun attends Ririko's remedial class again while the others gather at their newspaper club. Mocha blames herself for Tsukun's empty brain and starts to study on her own in order to improve herself. Tsukun continues to study during daytime as well as after school in a trance. During his remedial class, Ririko hears Mocha's name while studying and hits him with a whip to teach him a lesson. She then climbs on top of him and starts to use him as an animal as she reminds him to only focus on studying like a loony case. After a while, Mocha barges inside the room and finds Ririko electrocuting Tsukun's head with some type of a plant-like structure which shocks her. Ririko turns out to be a Greek mythology monster called Lamia who is half human and half a snake. She strikes Mocha hard, sending her flying into the hallway and tells Tsukun that they should continue their session. Tsukun kisses her hand, but just then, Shirayuki arrives at the scene and decides to teach Ririko a lesson. She sends a cold wind towards Ririko, who in return throws some lit lamps on her which erupt fire all around her. Mocha throws a lamp at Ririko as well and Ririko becomes triggered, so she rips Mocha's bag apart with her tail and smacks her against a wall. Tsukun notices Mocha's notes thrown on the ground which snap him back to reality and he rushes to her side to help her out. He pulls off her rosary which causes her to transform into her dark self and the dark Mocha kicks Ririko into oblivion, defeating her. Soon the final exams arrive and Tsukun does his best despite the previous ordeals. He thanks Mocha for her help after giving the exam and ultimately ends up passing the exams with flying colors. Vacation arrives after the final exams and Tsukun's homeroom teacher Nikanome announces that the newspaper club is going to the human world for their summer retreat. On the designated day, Tsukun and Mocha arrive at the bus stop earlier than others and Mocha shares with him that she is really anxious about returning to the human world since she has had some bad experiences in junior high. Tsukun consoles her to the best of his abilities and the others arrive as well. The whole group along with Nikanome head to the human world without Jinai, who has to stay behind due to extra lessons. As the bus crosses over to the human world, Tsukun announces that he is back and the other girls tease him that he is talking like a human. Mocha reminds him that Tsukun feels nostalgic because he stayed in the human world for a long time. They all head to the beach, where they all play volleyball together. Some girls notice that Tsukun looks very relaxed in the human world and point out that he is acting just like a human. Mocha distracts them from the topic since she knows about Tsukun's identity as a human and makes them focus on volleyball. Kurumu then keeps stealing Yukari's balls, due to which Yukari issues her a challenge and they both play fiercely against each other. At one point, Yukari even uses magic to defeat her, but Tsukun jumps in front of her and reminds her that she cannot use magic in the human world. Meanwhile, Nikanome busies herself by staring at all kinds of fish being cooked at a nearby stall because she is a cat girl in disguise. Tsukun and Mocha are flirting like a bunch of hormonal teenagers when the other girls ask Tsukun to join them in the water. He realizes that Mocha cannot go in the water because of her weakness and declares that he won't go due to her. Things get heated between them and she is about to suck her blood when the other girls jump between them and accuse Mocha of just leeching after him for blood. Later the whole group comes across a field of sunflowers where trespassing is not allowed for some reason. At the same time, a random couple strolls through the sunflower fields and they discuss the rumors surrounding the field according to which many people go missing in the area because of some angered witches. Kurumu and Yukari also overhear the rumors and Kurumu teases Yukari about the rumors since she is a witch as well. Yukari uses her magic to throw a plate at her head in anger and her magic performance gets seen by someone hiding inside the field. The person named Ruby then heads back to her mansion to report everything to her master. Later Tsukun's group makes camp to stay for the night and their teacher rushes towards the water to hunt some fresh fish. Yukari feels alone when no one lets her help in their tasks and she heads to the sunflowers field which is also called the Witch's Hill. She comes across Ruby there who reveals that she is also a watch and asks her to become her friend. Since Yukari has never met another witch before, she quickly accepts her friendship and Ruby hugs her tightly. Ruby then reveals that the humans intend to destroy the field and asks her to help her eliminate the humans. Yukari hesitates to answer and just then Tsukun arrives to look for her. Ruby assumes that he has also come to destroy the fields and attacks him by transforming some plants into monster plants. Yukari uses magic to cut down the plants and explains to Ruby that Tsukun is her friend but Ruby refuses to listen to her. She uses the plants to bind Tsukun as well as Yukari but Yukari decides that she has had enough. She uses a powerful spell to rain down a torrent of cards which slices and destroys all the plants. The other girls arrive at the site and Yukari informs Ruby that she cannot be with her before walking away. Ruby attacks Tsukun once again and injures him badly which causes Mocha to lose her senses and transform into her dark self. Shirayuki also summons an ice storm while Kuruma lunges at Ruby to attack her. The outburst by Mocha knocks out Ruby and after a while, she overhears Yukari healing Tsukun and all the girls yapping as usual. She wakes up to find herself surrounded by Tsukun's group and immediately tries attacking them but Tsukun touches her forehead with a cold can which calms her down. He asks her to tell them her story, so she tells everyone that the Witch's Hill has been a refuge for all the witches since a long time ago. However, the humans barged in with their plan a while back. She blames the humans for everything that happened and declares that she will take revenge by killing all of them. The girls argue with her that witches are being really selfish by killing humans and Ruby declares that her master has already passed judgment on the humans. The girls ask Ruby to come to Yukai Academy and leave the hill in order to avoid any sort of conflict with the humans and Ruby watches as the girls and Tsukun tease each other and do their usual banter. When all of them fall asleep, Ruby sneaks out of their tents and thinks about joining the Yukai Academy. She then returns to her home but gets attacked by her master the moment she steps inside. She declares that she won't ever think about betraying her master, but her master still attacks her with flower vines. Later Tsukun's group discovers that Ruby is missing and they rush to the Witch's Hill in order to find her. They get attacked on the way as Ruby appears in front of them and summons man-eating plants which bind all of them. Before Tsukun can get attacked as well, Shirayuki freezes the plants around him to protect her while Yukari uses her magic to burst out of the plant vines. Kurumu also appears beside him and together they all attack the monster plants. The plants continue to attack Mocha and when Tsukun tries to help her out, they eat him up as well while the other girls struggle to destroy them. Tsukun hears the voice of Mocha's rosary in the dark and pulls on it, which transforms her into the dark self. Dark Mocha bursts out of the vines and immediately rips everything into shreds. She kicks down Ruby as well but Ruby gets up and uses magic to revive all the monster plants once again. The plants lash out at the girls and bind Tsukun as well with even more power than before. Tsukun realizes that Ruby's master is controlling her and also spots a mansion at a distance which gives him an idea. Mocha rips apart his plants which allow him to land safely, and he then rushes towards the mansion. Kurumu runs after him and even saves him from being pummeled to death when a plant attacks him. Yukari also follows both of them and uses magic to slice a few plants. They both clear the path as Tsukun runs forward towards the mansion, leaving them to deal with the plants. Another monster plant attacks him but this time, Shirayuki saves him by dealing with the plant. Tsukun rushes inside the mansion and runs from one room to another to find the master. Meanwhile, Ruby manages to overpower Mocha and then binds all the girls in a huge ball of vines to teach them a lesson. Tsukun rushes to the scene and tells Ruby to stop the dramatics since her master is already dead. Ruby cannot accept this fact and just then, she has a vision in which her master asks her to forgive her for leaving her all alone in the world. Ruby comes to a realization that her master has been dead for a while, but she had created an illusion in her head that she was still alive. The sudden realization causes her to lose her senses and her powers go berserk as she releases a powerful wave of energy. Yukari reveals that a witch cannot return to her original form if she uses forbidden magic, and just then, huge monstrous vines emerge from the earth and attack everyone. All seems lost, but Yukari doesn't give up and makes Tsukun throw her wand towards her on her instructions. She then uses the wand to help Kurumu out of the vines as well, and meanwhile, Ruby sucks out Mocha's energy in order to become more powerful. Yukari and Shirayuki work together to break Mocha from the vines, and Yukari instructs her to steal Ruby's wound away, explaining that a witch cannot use her powers without her power. Mocha avoids all the attacks from the vines and lunges directly towards Ruby, where she attacks her. A moment later, a huge explosion erupts in the field which finally destroys all the monster plants and ends the fight. The next morning, Nikanome appears to meet with the group when it's time to head back, and even Jinai arrives on the bus to pick them up. He then carries out Ruby from the bus and tells everyone that he found her body by the beach and is meaning to bring her to the Yukai Academy. The second semester begins in the Yukai Academy, and Tsukun and Mocha meet outside the school gates on the first day. Tsukun recalls that he never visited his parents after joining the academy, but called his parents when they were visiting the human world to let them know that he is fine and has made a lot of friends. Mocha jumps on him to drink his blood, and after a while, the rest of Tsukun's harem girls also join him at the school gate. Later, the whole group works hard to make the first issue of the newspaper for the second semester, which includes different articles on the human world. Even Shirayuki admits that she used to feel really lonely after rejoining school, but now she feels at home with all the girls. The girls head out to distribute the newspaper, but they notice that some other girls are already distributing a brand new and colored newspaper among the students. Kurumu confronts the girls, and a second-year student named Kido steps forward and declares that she has made a new club called Super Newspaper Club, which will be distributing its own newspaper issue. Kurumu begins to argue with her, but Kido tells her to compete with her newspaper through her content and walks away. Tsukun's group then tries to distribute their own issue of the newspaper, but due to the fancier newspaper published by Kido's group, they fail to get popular among the students. They then confront their teacher, who informs them that they must up their game in order to defeat the other club, or else their club may be abolished. Meanwhile, Jinai is doing his usual spying on some girls through his camera and notices Kido and some girls sneaking inside a room suspiciously. For the next issue of the newspaper, Kurumu and Yukari dress up as maids to lure the male students into buying their newspaper. Their technique works fabulously till Kido's girls appear in swimsuits and offer to sell their pictures to the male students if they will buy their newspaper. Their technique works as well, and all the male students rush to their side, forgetting Yukari and Kurumu. Jinai arrives at the club room and instructs the girls to stop making efforts to defeat their rival club. He reveals that the new club is backed by the Public Safety Commission of the group, which is a school police group formed to police the students, and that the group is really corrupt and is famous for extorting money from the students. The girls think that they should publish articles in the newspaper relating to the police group in order to expose their reality to the students, but Jinai instructs them to burn all their newspapers and not compete against them anymore. Since he is their president, they are forced to listen to him, and eventually they burn all the newspapers one by one. Before the last batch is burned, Kurumu begins to cry, and Kido arrives with her girls to watch her theatrics. She throws the newspaper into the fire, and Kido's girls push her back when she runs towards the stove to stop them. Kido then reveals her true form, which turns out to be a spider woman, and uses her spider webs to bind Tsukun and Kurumu. She reveals that her loyal servants all used to be ex-rebel students who were poisoned by her and then transformed into loyal servants due to her spider poison. She crawls towards Kurumu to poison her as well, but Shirayuki appears just in time and uses ice shards to stop Kido from advancing further. Mocha and Yukari arrive at the scene as well, and Mocha rushes towards Tsukun to save him. Just like always, Tsukun ends up pulling off her rosary, which transforms her into her true self. The dark Mocha taunts Kurumu for not being able to save herself, and Kurumu then uses her succubus powers to get herself free from the spider web. Kido throws her spider web at Mocha, but Mocha only grabs her web and pulls her towards her. She then uses her web to send Kido crashing into her loyal servants and defeat her. After the fight, Tsukun and the girls decide to defy Jinai's orders and publish an article on the school police to expose them. Meanwhile, the school police president named Kuyu learns about Kido's defeat and decides to handle Jinai and the newspaper club just like last year. Over the next few days, Tsukun and his harem girls stalk the school police force and take pictures whenever their members are extorting money, or punishing or blackmailing any student. After they have gathered all the evidence, they still believe that they need personal testimonies from some victims to validate their articles, but no one steps forward with any testimony in fear of the police force. Shirayuki appears at the club and reveals that she has convinced 3 stalkers from the Love Alliance to give testimonies against the police force. She reveals that she stalked 3 guys and threatened them to give the testimonies in exchange for not freezing them. The others rush to the stalkers' clubroom to interview them but discover that the school police force has taken away the 3 guys already. The next morning, Tsukun and Mocha meet each other at the school, and as always Mocha is about to drink his blood when Kurumu kicks her from behind and tells the loony cases to focus on their current investigation. Later during the class, the school police force president Kuyu and a bunch of his minions barge inside Tsukun's classroom, and Kuyu accuses him of being a human. He then arrests Tsukun along with his accomplices Mocha, Kurumu, and Shirayuki and takes them away from the class. Yukari watches them leave and is about to rush to help them out, but Jinai stops her and advises her to calm down for now despite her crying. Later, Tsukun gets investigated by Kuyu and his thugs, and he boldly declares that he isn't a human. Kuyu then shows him a bunch of clips where his fellow classmates or acquaintances make comments that they doubt that Tsukun is a human and that he smells like a human. He then shows him a clip where Kurumu is being investigated, and she reveals that Tsukun has never transformed into a monster despite being involved in a number of fights with her. Up next, he watches a clip in which Mocha declares that Tsukun is not a human and a minion puts fresh water in front of her, which is her weakness. Tsukun hears as the minion throws the water at her, which electrocutes her badly and makes her scream wildly. Kuyu threatens Tsukun that he will sink Mocha into a pond behind the shrine if he doesn't confess the truth, and finally Tsukun admits the truth to him that he is a human. Kuyu snaps his fingers and the 3 harem girls appear behind Tsukun after having heard his confession. Mocha begins to cry because she blames herself for his confession, and Kurumu realizes that Mocha already knew about Tsukun's secret, so she slaps her in anger. Kuyu taunts the girls for fighting among themselves, and his minions then throw Kurumu and Shirayuki out while they drag Mocha to a separate cell in order to confine her. Kuyu declares that Mocha is also Tsukun's accomplice because she was deliberately keeping his secret as well, and one by one the police force members announce that Tsukun is guilty and should be executed for breaking the school rules. Kurumu and Shirayuki return to the clubroom and inform Yukari and Jinai the truth about Tsukun's identity, that he is a human. Yukari cannot believe this, but as the girls keep thinking about it, they realize that Tsukun must be a human based on his previous reactions and his relaxed behavior at the human world during their last trip. Shirayuki storms out of the clubroom while Jinai advises the girls to lay low for a little while before leaving them as well. Yukari and Kurumu discuss with one another that they dislike humans a lot because of their previous interactions with them. The school makes a public announcement that the school police force has decided to execute Tsukun and will be executing him publicly in front of them. All the students gather at one place as the police force takes Tsukun to an execution state, and when some students comment on the brutality of the decision, a police force member sneakily knocks them out to silence any protests. Even the teachers gather to watch the execution take place, and Tsukun's homeroom teacher gets summoned from the school's director. Tsukun then gets tied to a cross while Kurumu begins crying in the clubroom, and Mocha struggles to remove her rosary in her confined cell. The director informs Nikanome that the teachers won't be interfering with the execution and that Tsukun will have to face his fate once and for all. Kuyu taunts Tsukun that he will kill all of his harem girls swiftly once he has executed him, causing Tsukun to cry out like a wuss. Shirayuki is moping around outside the school when a crow approaches her. After a while, Yukari argues with Kurumu that they should quickly help out Tsukun, and Kurumu begins to whine like an idiot that Mocha and Tsukun shouldn't have hid such a big secret from them when the same crow appears in front of them. Mocha is also moping around at the jail when the crow appears in front of her, and suddenly the bars of her cell bend to open up. The crow transforms into Ruby, and the rest of the harem girls also come to meet Mocha. Kurumu slaps her hard for lying to all of them, and Ruby shows everyone her new wand. She reveals that a lot has happened to her since their encounter last time, and the girls hurry towards the execution site. Kuyu begins Tsukun's execution and summons fire to burn him alive. He lights him on fire, but just then the girls rush to the site. Kurumu and Ruby fly over to Tsukun in order to rescue her, and Kuyu orders his minions to execute all the news club members as well. He reveals to the girls that Jinai tried to publish the truth about the school force last year but was brutally punished by them, and that they will receive punishment as well. Kuyu's minions attack Tsukun's harem girls, but Yukari and Shirayuki fight against them easily while Kurumu and Ruby carry Tsukun away from the execution site. Kuyu flies off into the air to pursue them, and Mocha runs after him to warn Tsukun. She finds Tsukun and the girls on top of the rooftop, and just then, Kuyu also lands in front of them. He throws a fire attack at Tsukun which burns all of his body and makes him collapse. Before he passes out, he tells Mocha to take care of his harem girls and pulls off her rosary, which is his final boss move. Mocha starts screaming as she transforms into her dark self and lunges at Kuyu, kicking him away from the scene. She then rushes to Tsukun's side and suggests injecting her own blood into him, which has a lot of power and is rumored to grant immortality as well. Kuyu transforms into a demon fox and appears to attack them. He throws a swift fire wheel at the girls, but Jinai jumps in front of the girls and takes the hit. He then collapses due to his injuries and the girls form a shield in front of Tsukun to stop Kuyu from getting to him. Meanwhile, Mocha takes this chance to bite Tsukun and inject her blood into his body in order to heal him. Shirayuki throws ice shards at Kuyu, but he easily deflects them and attacks back at her, injuring her in the process. Kurumu also lunges at her, but he also avoids all her attacks and smacks her away. Up next, Ruby and Yukari use a joint spell to try to seal him, but he burns the spell away with his fire. The spell transforms into a huge crow which attacks him and causes Kuyu to transform into his final form, which is a hybrid between a human and a demon fox. Kuyu attacks the girls with fire and causes a huge explosion, which rocks the whole building, but Shirayuki uses last reserves of her power to form an ice wall against Kuyu's attacks, which prevents the girls from dying. Mocha attacks Kuyu next, but he blocks all of her punches and lands a kick on her which sends her flying a few feet away. He throws a flame wheel attack on them, but suddenly Tsukun wakes up thanks to Mocha's blood and carries Mocha away in order to dodge the fire attack. Kuyu lunges at both of them, but Jinai also wakes up and grabs a hold of him to restrain him. Mocha then attacks him head-on and sends him crashing through the ground. She transforms back into the normal Mocha just when a bunch of students rush to the scene and witness Kuyu's defeated body. They assume that Tsukun defeated him and declare that he must be a monster after all, so they apologize to him for suspecting his identity earlier. Afterwards, Mocha wakes up in the infirmary and finds Tsukun in front of her, who apologizes to her for causing harm to her. He is about to kiss her when the other girls barge inside and start flirting with him as usual. Tsukun has a dream in which he meets with Mocha on the way to school, but this time she doesn't drink her blood, instead jumps on him. He falls on top of her and is about to kiss her when Mocha turns into her dark self and kicks him into oblivion. He then wakes up back in his home and rushes out to catch the bus that will take him to the Yukai Academy. He gets on the bus and the bus driver warns him to be careful before dropping him off. Tsukun feels nostalgic returning after 2 weeks of spring break, and just then, a bicycle rams into him. He lands on a girl, but she kicks him away after calling him a creep. She then rushes to his side and comments that he smells nice before storming away from him. He then comes across a batch of new first-year girls surrounding and fangirling over Yukari and Kurumu, but both girls run to greet him when they see him. Kuruma shoves Yukari aside and attacks Tsukun's face with her talons. Mocha arrives at the scene and right off the bat bites his neck to drink his blood in order to start a new year. The new first-year girls surround Mocha after hearing the tales about her beauty and take her away in a rush of fangirling. Tsukun and his harem girls all end up in the same class once again and discover that Nikanome is their homeroom teacher this year as well. After the class, the harem girls come across tons of fan letters in their lockers and Mocha gets buried in her pile of letters. She then notices a peculiar-looking letter and opens it, only to reveal that someone has threatened to take her life in the letter. Afterwards, Mocha shares with Tsukun that she is scared by the letter's threat, while Kurumu and Yukari head out to recruit new members to their newspaper club. Mocha and Tsukun also come across Ruby, who has joined the school staff to temporarily help the headmaster. They also discover a letter in her stall which once again threatens to take Mocha's life, but they fail to discover who the sender is. Meanwhile, Kurumu and Yukari distribute their latest issue of the newspaper in maid outfits, which gets a lot of attention from the other students. They notice a first-year bratty girl throwing the newspaper away, but before they can confront her, dozens of students surround them to get the latest issue from them. After the day ends, Tsukun and Mocha head home and Mocha notices a letter sticking on Tsukun's back. The letter states that the sender will end Mocha's life at the entrance ceremony, and Mocha runs away in fear after reading it. Later at night, Tsukun and Mocha stare at one another through different windows despite being in different buildings. At the same time, Shirayuki stares at Tsukun during her routine stalking duty, and she comes across the same first-year student from before trying to find someone's room. The girl calls Shirayuki a stalker, and in return Shirayuki throws ice shards at her, but the girl easily dodges them and runs away. The next morning, Tsukun finds Mocha in a tense state and she shows him dozens of letters which she kept getting throughout the night from her stalker. Tsukun assures Mocha that he will protect her and even asks the other girls to help him protect Mocha during the entrance ceremony. Meanwhile, the first-year students gather for the ceremony, but one orange-haired girl confronts some boys and gets into a fight with them. The boys turn into giant monsters and chase after them, but she easily dodges all their attacks and sneaks among the students to get away from them. Tsukun and his harem girl spot the girl as well, and Shirayuki points out that the same girl was stalking the building last night as well. Tsukun tries to take Mocha out of the building, but he ends up accidentally pulling off her rosary, which causes her to transform into the Dark Mocha. The Dark Mocha defeats the monsters with one kick and then orders all the first-year students to shut the hell up, which makes them fangirl over her even more. Afterwards, the orange-haired girl reveals herself to be Mocha's stalker and turns out to be her actual little sister named Cocoa. Mocha tells everyone to run away just as Cocoa attacks her and destroys the trees around them with brute force. She then attacks Mocha with a tree, who dodges all her attacks, and Sukun jumps between the sisters to stop the fighting. He ends up getting hit by Cocoa and collapses on the ground bleeding, so the girls rush to his side. Cocoa becomes fascinated by the smell of his blood and almost licks it like a dog, but Kurumu pushes her away. Mocha also approaches him to lick off his blood and Kurumu pushes her away as well. Cocoa approaches them once again to attack them, but a teacher appears which causes her to flee from the scene. Later the girls tend to Tsukun's wounds and Mocha shares with them that she has 4 siblings who all have different mothers, out of which Cocoa is her youngest sibling. In the past, she and Cocoa used to fight a lot, but she used to always beat her up because her powers weren't sealed. One day her mother sealed her powers and took her to the human world, where they lived for the rest of the time. However, Cocoa never forgave her and kept coming after her to challenge her. Since her powers were sealed now, she could not fight back with her and always avoided her, due to which she thinks Cocoa has now come to the Yukai Academy to fight with her once more. Tsukun consoles Mocha that her sister's bratty attitude isn't her fault, but just then, Cocoa lands inside the room. Her bat transforms into a huge hammer and she attacks Mocha again, due to which everyone runs out to avoid her. She chases after them like a girl on crack and ignores the other girls, focusing only on Mocha alone. Even the teachers get an alert about her behavior, and they ask Nikanome to somehow stop Cocoa before she gets into a bigger mess. Cocoa finds Mocha wherever she runs away and then uses her bat to attack her. The other girls group together to attack her, but Mocha instructs them to not hurt her little sister, which causes them to stop dead in their tracks and for Cocoa to attack them with her bat. Ginny and Ruby appear as a group, but rather than stopping Cocoa, they start to have a photo shoot session in which Ginny takes a lot of pictures of Ruby. Cocoa becomes distracted by their dramatics and doesn't notice when Tsukun and his girls sneak away. She then searches for them everywhere while they all hide themselves in the school gym. Mocha finally becomes fed up with Cocoa and instructs everyone to not follow her as she heads out to directly confront her little sister on her own. She faces her in the graveyard and Cocoa attacks her head on. Mocha defends herself with a metal case but soon gets defeated by Cocoa. She admits to her that she has lost to her, but Cocoa starts crying as she blames her for not taking her seriously. Tsukun and the other girls overhear her whining and assume that Cocoa must have been lonely when Mocha went away and that she must love her a lot. Mocha hugs Cocoa in order to console her, but Cocoa pushes her away and declares that she hates her. She then summons a huge weapon and slams it on Mocha and Tsukun, but the Dark Mocha appears before they can be crushed. The Dark Mocha kicks Cocoa and sends her flying, but Cocoa gets up and jumps to hug the Dark Mocha as she calls her big sister in delight. She reveals that she hates the weak Mocha and only considers the Dark Mocha her real sister. The Dark Mocha instructs her to forget her now and then kicks her away. She walks over to Tsukun and transforms back into the usual Mocha, while Cocoa vows to find a way to reunite with the past Mocha somehow. Later Tsukun carries Mocha to the infirmary when she wakes up and bites his neck to drink his blood. Some days later, Yukai Academy has a parent visitation day in which every student's parents are supposed to visit the school. Tsukun doesn't invite someone and Mocha shares with him that she wanted to meet with his mother. Later she yaps to him that her family never visits the school and that she should visit Cocoa's class as her family. Cocoa appears in her class and swings a hammer on Tsukun to push him out of the way, while she tells Mocha to not interfere in her matters since she is not her real sister. After she storms away, Tsukun tends to his wounds and consoles Mocha that his parents do not visit schools either, due to which they are both the same. Things get heated between them and Mocha leans on him to bite his neck, but just then Shirayuki appears between them. She reveals that she wants to introduce her mother to Tsukun, and her mother named Tsurara silently appears behind the desk like a stalker. Shirayuki introduces Tsukun to her as her boyfriend and Shirayuki sneakily pleads with Tsukun to pretend to be her boyfriend for a little while. Tsurara greets Tsukun nicely and notices Mocha standing beside him, so Shirayuki lies to her that Mocha is Tsukun's stalker who keeps pursuing him all the time. Suddenly Kurumu appears in the class and jumps on Tsukun. Her mother named Kurono arrives in the class after her and Kurumu lies to her that Tsukun is her fiancé while Mocha is his mistress. Kurono hugs Tsukun tightly while she inquires about the kind of relationship he has been having with her daughter. Yukari appears with her parents as well, but before she can lie about anything, Ruby rushes to meet with her parents and starts fangirling on seeing adult witches. Kurono and Tsurara notice one another for the first time and start to have a beef about something. The class begins, and after the class, Nikanome instructs all the parents to head to the gym for the next class. After they are all gone, Tsukun argues with Shirayuki and Kurumu and asks them to stop lying to their parents. During the next period, Kurono takes Kurumu to a side and instructs her to use her succubus powers on Tsukun in order to fully make him hers. She prompts her to finalize her relationship with him to defeat her opponent's daughter. At the same time, Tsurara takes Shirayuki to a side as well and instructs her to freeze Tsukun to advance their relationship. She convinces her that she should give him the love of a snow woman in order to defeat her opponent's daughter. Shirayuki then approaches Tsukun and freezes him on the spot just like how Tsurara had instructed her. Yukari uses magic to defreeze him and Kurumu then jumps on Tsukun to seduce him. She tries kissing him but Yukari uses her magic to throw a pan on her head which fails her plans. Tsurara and Kurono continue to compete with one another during the remaining classes as they prompt their daughters to defeat the other girl in studies or singing. Kurumu and Shirayuki have a singing showdown in which Shirayuki first sings a song about her love in front of the whole class. She accidentally uses her powers as well and freezes the students by the end of her song. Kurumu then sings a song as well and makes the students cry with her singing. During the lunch break, both their mothers insist that Tsukun should have lunch with their daughter and he ends up sitting with the both of them under sheer pressure. Both mothers begin arguing with one another about Tsukun's relationship with their daughters and the fight escalates so much that they jump back to attack one another. Kurono attacks Tsurara with her succubus nails while Tsurara summons Snow to attack her. Kurumu and Shirayuki step forward to stop them but their mothers push them away and continue to hurl insults at one another. It turns out that they both used to be classmates at Yukai Academy who were after one guy and always blamed the other one for coming in their way. The fight between the mothers escalates and Tsukun pulls off Mocha's rosary accidentally which causes her to transform into her true vampire self. The dark Mocha approaches the mothers and defeats them quickly in order to shut their yapping mouths. Afterwards, Yukari's parents repair the whole building with their magic and Kurumu and Shirayuki confess to their mothers that they were lying about their relationship with Tsukun. The mothers also admit that they made a mistake by giving in to their emotions and the parents' visitation day ends on a good note. Mocha and Tsukun meet with each other at the school gate and Mocha bites his neck as usual. One day, Yukari sees Tsukun early in the morning but before she can greet him, he runs off to greet Mocha first. Kurumu witnesses her desperate act and teases her that Tsukun ignores her because of her small talents. Later Yukari thinks about Kurumu's words and even wears a fancy-looking dress as she imagines that she is going out with Tsukun somewhere. The next day, Yukari notices that Tsukun hangs out with Mocha and Kurumu the most. She keeps comparing herself to the both of them and even runs into the infirmary where she checks her height. She discovers that she has not grown up since the last time but convinces herself that Tsukun will start noticing her once she becomes a grown-up lady. A nurse named Meiko overhears her Delulu words and offers to turn her into an adult. Yukari argues with her that there is no magic which can turn her into an adult, but Meiko suddenly approaches her and nicks her skin lightly with her finger. Later Yukari wakes up in the infirmary and heads back to the class. Everyone keeps staring at her as she is walking down the hallway and even her friends refuse to recognize her. She then notices her reflection in the mirror and discovers to her shock that she has grown into an adult. She rushes to the infirmary again where she checks out her new hot look and hugs Meiko in order to thank her. Later after school, she takes a bath with Mocha. The next day, Mocha takes her for undergarments shopping and Yukari enjoys the experience a lot while Kurumu and Shirayuki wonder how she grew up so quickly. Soon Yukari's popularity soars in the school as the new hot chick and the boys keep trailing after her which gives her immense confidence. She comes across Tsukun and thrusts herself on his face but he avoids her and runs away. Tsukun's class has a physical examination in which the school staff has to take measurements of everyone. Yukari excitedly heads for the examinations and argues with the other girls about her bigger size. Ruby turns out to be one of the school staff and she measures the girls one by one. Kurumu openly declares her size and flexes it in front of Yukari who still isn't as big as her. As the examination progresses, Yukari starts to feel like her size should be bigger than everyone else and that Tsukun will start to love her once she has big enough talents. She runs out of the examination site and heads straight to the infirmary where she begs Meiko to increase her size once again. Meiko calls her a foolish child and lectures her that her life won't change no matter how many times she changes her appearance. She reveals that she is actually a monster who dwells on people's negative emotions and that she helped out Yukari before in order to hit her with the bitter truth. She transforms into a demon and when Yukari gets up to fight her, she reminds her that she will return to her childish state if she defeats her. She then takes control of Yukari and stabs her neck with her finger. As Yukari loses consciousness, she overhears her friends rushing into the room and fighting with Meiko. The dark Mocha appears and defeats Meiko, which causes Yukari to wake up once again. She comes to realize that she cannot grow up if she keeps having such immature thoughts about herself. After Everyone is gone. She appears at the examination site with her old height and confidently gets her measurements taken. Kurumu teases her about using magic to increase her size, but she doesn't take the bait and instead decides to wait to. One day, the Yukai Academy holds a cooking class for the girls while the boys get a building class where they have to make different things from wood. They keep wondering what the girls will make for him, and even Tsukun becomes lost thinking about Mocha's cooking. Meanwhile, Tsukun's harem girls receive a lesson on how to make curry from their teacher named Aspera, and Kurumu tries her best to make curry by putting a bottle of love potion inside it. Yukari makes a green curry made out of frogs which can vitalize a person, and Aspera puts a lot of spices in the curry which ruins its flavor. Ruby appears with a cart filled with spices and reveals that she is helping out the school staff once again. Kokoa watches her sister from outside of the window and discovers that Shirayuki is also stalking the girls. She calls Shirayuki a stalker and lunges at her to attack her, but Shirayuki freezes her on the spot to avoid any trouble. The other girls discover Shirayuki bunking the class and ask her to participate in the class with them. Later the girls present their curries to the boys and Tsukun receives a bunch of plates from all of his harem girls. Mocha tries to feed him the curry that she made him but gets pushed to the side by Kurumu, who asks him to eat her poisoned curry first. Yukari then appears with her green curry and insists that Tsukun should eat her curry first, even though it seems like a frog is drowning inside it. Shirayuki blows on Yukari's curry to cool it down and ends up freezing everything including Tsukun's head. She then presents her own curry, which turns out to be a food frozen in a block of ice, and Tsukun still makes an attempt to break the ice in order to try her cooking. The other class girls call Shirayuki a snow monster and throw taunts at her that she can never cook anything. Shirayuki becomes triggered and freezes everyone in her class before storming out. Meanwhile, Kokoa wakes up in the cooking class and makes fun of Aspera for being obsessed with curry. She then heads out with her cocky attitude and Aspera attacks her from behind to forcibly make her eat her curry. Shirayuki decides to not give up and to polish her cooking skills in order to make the best food for Tsukun. She buys a lot of ingredients and makes one batch of curry after another, which all turn out to be failures. Ruby spots her when she is out shopping and gives her cooking lessons to improve her skill. Shirayuki keeps cooking throughout the night and doesn't rest till she can perfect her recipe. The next day, she doesn't come to school and Tsukun's harem decides to pay her a visit after school. A yellow-looking Kokoa appears in Mocha's class with curry and excitedly yaps to her about curry, which makes Mocha think that maybe she has forgotten about their feud. She then hugs her tightly while the other girls notice that there is definitely something wrong with Kokoa. Soon the water taps start to release curry as well, and as the students eat curry in one form or another, they begin to turn yellow. Shirayuki heads to school during the lunch break with her perfected curry and comes across a scene straight out of a cheap-looking horror movie in which all the students are busy eating curry. The students sense that she has curry in her bag as well and begin to approach her in a zombie-like state, so she freezes all of them and runs inside the building. All the students begin to come after her when they smell curry on her, but she avoids everyone and runs around to find Tsukun. She then rushes to the roof and finds that Tsukun and all her friends have turned into curry monsters as well. Aspera appears on the roof and reveals that she is actually an Indian spirit who wants people to taste the real spiciness of the curry. All the students fill the roof and surround Shirayuki while Aspera tells her to have a taste of her curry as well. Tsukun then approaches Shirayuki and climbs on top of her in a zombie-like state while begging for curry. She gives up and decides to let him have curry which she had made for him. She then takes out everything from her bag and makes a plate for Tsukun, which turns out to be shaved ice along with a curry-flavored sauce. Tsukun lunges on the curry and gulps it down quickly, which brings him back to reality and snaps him out of Aspera's trance. Aspera then throws curry plates at him, but Shirayuki freezes all of the plates. Aspera throws a huge plate at him next, which sends him flying into Mocha, and he accidentally takes off her rosary, causing the dark Mocha to appear. She kicks Aspera away and defeats her in a second despite being in the curry trance herself. Aspera then releases a flood of curry which torrents inside the school and wipes all the students away. Afterwards, Shirayuki continues to make food for Tsukun and her friends, and they enjoy her cooking a lot even though it mostly centers around cold vegetables and snow. One dark night, four monsters gather after taking over the entire Shikoku region, and they make plans to take over the Kansai region next. The next morning, Tsukun's class heads to the Kansai region in the human world for a trip. Kokoa follows the bus in order to keep an eye on her sister, and the trip stops at a historical site first. Mocha hopes to spend some alone time with Tsukun, but other harem girls swarm him instead and do not give her an opportunity to act like the usual psycho that she is. Just as Kokoa arrives at the site as well, the trip moves on to its next destination and the class heads to another destination. Mocha continues to feel jealous throughout the trip when she doesn't spend any time with Tsukun, and at one point, she points out a keychain, but the other girls make fun of her choice, due to which she runs out in tears. She runs into the Shikoku monster's gang members and apologizes to them, before running away. Kokoa runs after her as well and runs into the same guys, but rather than apologizing to them, she beats them up for talking rudely to her. Later the class arrives at their hotel and the girls drag Tsukun away before Mocha can get a chance to talk to him. Kurumu and Yukari then jump into the hot springs to have a nice bath, but Mocha appears and puts herbs in the water to adjust herself to the water. Kokoa also tries sneaking in the baths, but Nikanome spots her and rushes after her to deport her back to school. After Mocha leaves, Shirayuki appears at the hot springs and puts ice inside the water to adjust the water's temperature, so Kurumu kicks her to the other side. Mocha then finds Tsukun alone and pulls him to a side where she requests him to meet her alone at nighttime. He immediately agrees to meet her while Kurumu overhears their conversation. Later at night, Shirayuki puts ice in the room to adjust the room's temperature, so Kurumu kicks her out once again for bothering them so much. Everyone then heads to sleep, and Mocha uses the chance to sneak out the room to meet up with Tsukun. Just as she heads out, Kurumu also gets up and notices that Yukari and Shirayuki have also woken up to stop Mocha. Meanwhile, Mocha confesses to Tsukun that she wanted to spend time with him all day but couldn't get the chance. Just then, a monster appears beside them and grabs a hold of Tsukun. A bunch of other gang guys appear as well and Tsukun's remaining harem girls appear to save him. Before they can save him, the monster challenges the girls to a fight and disappears with Tsukun. The next day, all the harem girls meet the monster boys at the beach, wearing gangster girl clothes which were recommended to them by Ruby. They face off the main group of monsters and tackle each one of them separately. Kurumu faces a monster who calls her flat-chested and she kicks him in the head. Shirayuki faces a monster who can summon fire on her and she uses her ice magic on him to defeat him. Yukari faces an opponent who buries her under a dozen pillows and she uses her magic to throw a pan at his face. Mocha then rushes to Tsukun's side to free him, but the gang leader attacks her. She throws something at his face which breaks his mask and he admits his defeat to her since he cannot bear to show everyone his face. Kokoa appears at the scene and challenges Tsukun's group to a fight, but they realize who she is and walk away from her without hearing her tantrums. Tsukun accidentally pulls off Mocha's rosary which makes Dark Mocha appear and she kicks Kokoa to oblivion to teach her a lesson. The next day, Mocha and Tsukun sneak away to spend some time alone, but the same gang appears and declares that Mocha is now their leader. Afterwards, Tsukun heads home to pay his parents a visit and meets with his mom named Kasumi who wasn't informed that he was coming. He catches up with her when the bell rings and Mocha appears at the doorstep as well. Tsukun takes her to his room, and she shares that she wanted to spend more time with him. He accidentally trips which causes the both of them to fall on his bed, but before they can do anything, he discovers Kurumu hiding underneath his bed covers. Shirayuki also appears from the cupboard where she was keeping an eye on him and Yukari appears at the window in her witch style as well. The girls feel shocked to see each other at Tsukun's room and start to argue with one another. Just then, Tsukun's mom discovers all of them inside his room and it gives her the shock of her life to see so many girls with her only son. Tsukun kicks the girls out and explains to Kasumi that the girls are all his classmates, but she keeps freaking out. The girls overhear everything from the outside and Mocha wonders whether she is being a bother by visiting him. Later Tsukun takes a bath and Kurumu barges inside in a towel. She asks him whether her visit is a bother for him and licks his finger, but before she can clap him, Shirayuki appears from underneath the bath water. She freezes the both of them and then declares that she wants to make babies with Tsukun as she approaches him. Yukari barges inside the room and slips on the water while accidentally tugging away Kurumu's towel as well. Meanwhile, Kasumi calls her husband to inform him that their son is turning into a lecher when Kurumu and Shirayuki run outside and Tsukun runs after them. She collapses from the sheer shock while Tsukun tries to stop the girls from fighting with one another. Just then, his cousin Kyoko appears and learns about what's happening at the house. She assures Kasumi that Tsukun's behavior is normal for a typical high school kid and then decides to choose the best girl for Tsukun if he cannot decide for himself. She then asks each girl to give her an introduction, and all the girls introduce themselves to Kasumi and Kyoko one by one. Mocha reveals that she was Tsukun's first, which gives his mother a shock, and Shirayuki declares that she wants to make babies with him. She begins to take off her socks, so Tsukun stops her from advancing any further and Kurumu scolds her for coming onto him so strongly. Kurumu and Shirayuki begin to fight one another while Kasumi faints from all the shock. Kurumu and Shirayuki then run out to fight it out and the others run out behind them. Both girls begin attacking one another at the streets, and at one time they forget that they are supposed to hide their identities in the human world. Kurumu lunges with her succubus talons while Shirayuki attacks her with ice shards. They destroy everything that comes in the way, and when Yukari tries to intervene between them, she becomes involved in their fight as well. Their fight causes a huge pan to fall on Kyoko as well, who faints from the impact. Kasumi wakes up beside Mocha, who apologizes to her for causing her so much trouble and informs her that the girls are from the newspaper club and that they are all only friends. Kasumi reveals that Tsukun has told her a lot about her and that she is an important friend to him. Mocha begins to cry as Kasumi asks her to take care of him in the future as well. Later, Mocha approaches Tsukun in the park and smashes his face into her talons. The other girls lunge at her to attack her, but Tsukun pulls away her rosary at the last second, which transforms her into the Dark Mocha. The Dark Mocha attacks the girls and defeats them in one move. She then instructs Tsukun that he will have to decide on her partner in the future one day. The next morning, Ruby picks up all the girls in the bus and takes them back to the Yukai Academy. Kyoko wakes up from her long slumber and yaps to Kasumi that the girls are not normal girls, but Kasumi assures her that they are all nice girls who will take care of her son. One day at Yukai Academy, Ruby meets with Tsukun early in the morning and starts thirsting over his non-existent looks. One by one, Tsukun's harem girls arrive and start to greet him or jump on him, which pisses off Ruby a lot. She calls out all the girls and instructs them to increase the length of their skirt because they are too flashy and immodest. Some of the girls even ask Tsukun whether their skirts are too short by lifting them in front of him, and Ruby declares that she will start checking the length of the skirts from the next day as a part of the moral school committee. During the class, the other girls also hear the noise and call Ruby an old-fashioned chick. Their homeroom teacher Nikanome overhears their comments and thinks to herself that she also hasn't shopped in a long while. She visits a nearby store, which is also run by Ruby, where she tries on many flashy clothes including school clothes one by one. She tries on a one-piece school swimsuit when she gets spotted by Ririko teacher, who humiliates her a lot for wearing such clothes in public. During their argument, Nikanome ends up ripping her swimming suit, due to which she has to eventually pay for the suit and walk out in the same style. After she is gone, Ririko spots a schoolgirl outfit and heads into the dressing room to try it out despite scolding Nikanome for doing the same earlier. The next day at school, Jinai spends his day as usual stalking different girls and sneakily taking their pictures. He notices that Tsukun is flocked by girls as usual and decides to imitate his hairstyle for a change, but ends up being ridiculed by Tsukun's harem girls for trying to imitate their Riz Lord. One day, Ririko decides to hatch her revenge plan against Mocha, even though it's been ages since she was defeated by her. After class, she lures her in and ties her up, after which she calls Tsukun to the roof. When Tsukun rushes to the roof, she declares that she will teach him a lesson once again, but before she can do anything, Nikanome appears in a Catwoman outfit and attacks her without revealing her identity. Both the women fight one another, but Nikanome defeats her and Tsukun then drags Mocha away from the scene. Ririko gets up suddenly and attacks Nikanome from behind, exposing her plot in the process. Nikanome's real identity gets revealed in the ordeal and she rushes away from the scene. In the meanwhile, Kokoa was in the human world all along, chasing after Mocha in her bicycle. Since she wasn't part of the official school trip, she had to use sneaky ways to stalk Mocha. Finally, she arrives a week late at school and gets pushed to the side by the athletics club members. She ends up falling on her bat that gets plastered to her and threatens to dispose of him if he doesn't shut up. Mocha and Tsukun keep meeting in the morning as usual, and Mocha keeps drinking his blood every morning. He does an experiment in which he drinks a lot of milk one day, which makes his blood taste milkier the next day. Similarly, he drinks a lot of vinegar one day and a lot of fruit juices another day to change the taste of his blood to stop Mocha from feasting on him so blatantly, but despite the change in his blood, she keeps feasting on him every single day. One day, he is exercising in the morning when Mocha comes to meet him, but she finds him too sweaty, so she heads to the school directly without drinking his blood, which is a rare feat for him. Soon enough, Ruby starts to check the length of every girl's skirt at the school gate, due to which the girls have no choice but to wear longer skirts. She spots some girls with short skirts and they make fun of her lame ideals, so she uses magic to tase them, which brings them to their senses. Later, Jinai approaches Ruby in an alley and begs her to stop her spectacle since he cannot take pictures of girls' bums this way. Ruby assures him that he can have a one-on-one personal photo shoot with her if he tolerates the spectacle for a little while longer, and he walks away satisfied. The next morning, Tsukun greets her at the gate as usual, and his harem girls also arrive wearing longer skirts. Suddenly, a strong wind blows which reveals the plot armor of all the girls. Ruby also trips on the ground. Tsukun consoles her about the incident and Jinai accidentally pushes Tsukun on Mocha, which causes him to rip off her rosary. She transforms into the Dark Mocha and then kicks Jinai into oblivion to shut his yapping mouth up. Afterwards, Ruby reports to the academy director that nothing unusual happened, and he reminds her that they have to watch over the Great Barrier, which hides the existence of the Yukai Academy from the human world. If the barrier ever breaks, a great amount of demonic energy will flow into the human world and cause a lot of chaos. He entrusts Ruby to do her job by maintaining the barrier through her magical powers and to do her side tasks as well. One day Cocoa watches video clips of the Dark Mocha fighting with her enemies and keeps fangirling over her sister like a retard. Her bat named Ko tells her to focus on the real task, and she notices that Mocha's rosary is the reason behind her transformation, so she decides to take it away from her. She runs to Mocha's class to execute her task but finds the whole class empty. Meanwhile, Tsukun's class heads to the mountains to have a ski training camp thanks to Shirayuki's mother who helped the teachers arrange the trip. The whole class arrives at the mountains and Shirayuki's mother greets all of them. Cocoa begins her solo trip to head to the mountains as well and decides to take a shortcut. Meanwhile, Ruby instructs all the students to only ski inside the course and Tsukun and Mocha make plans to ski together. Before they can do anything, Kurumu lands on Tsukun followed by Yukari who also lands on him. Both the girls beg him to teach him skiing and just then, Shirayuki jumps on them from a snow hill. She skates on a self-made ice board and snatches Tsukun away from the girls without a second thought. She then runs into Cocoa who had just arrived at the skiing mountains and sends her flying away. Later Shirayuki heads to her mother's room where they have both arranged a room where she can seduce Tsukun. Shirayuki then shows her mother the icebox which should contain Tsukun inside but finds that there is nothing inside. Meanwhile, Tsukun takes a break in the mountains when Mocha finds him there. Cocoa also spots the both of them and tries to forcibly take off Mocha's rosary but fails to do it. She then rudely asks Tsukun how he takes off her rosary and her constant yapping causes an avalanche in the mountains. The avalanche rushes towards them and sweeps them off their feet. Elsewhere the other harem girls and the academy teachers are taking a hot springs bath when Shirayuki and Mocha arrive in a hurry and inform them that Tsukun and Cocoa have been swept away to an alley by an avalanche. Cocoa dreams about fighting with Mocha when she was a kid and then wakes up to find herself in a cave with Tsukun. She rushes out of the cave and discovers that there is a heavy storm brewing. They both hear a loud growl over the mountains which make Tsukun think that a monster may be in the wild out there, so he takes her back to the cave. Tsukun's teachers and his harem girls make a search team which begins its search for Tsukun and Cocoa. Meanwhile, since Cocoa has nothing better to do, she begins to cry and whine about the fact that Mocha always prefers Tsukun over her and has even shared her blood with him. She declares that she will never like her and then faints on the spot as she begins to feel cold. Tsukun realizes that she needs some body warmth and then takes off his clothes to warm her body. Suddenly, a Yeti monster approaches their caves and Tsukun jumps in front of him to prevent him from getting to Cocoa. Before the Yeti can pummel him to death, Shirayuki arrives and attacks him with ice shards. Tsukun runs away with Cocoa in his arms while Shirayuki deals with the Yeti. The monster runs after them and corners them on a hill, but just then Mocha arrives as well. Tsukun takes off her rosary which transforms her into the Dark Mocha and she kicks away the Yeti in one move. Cocoa decides to steal her rosary, but Mocha scolds her that her seal can never be lifted. She then puts the rosary on her chest and transforms back into the normal Mocha. It turns out that the Yeti was actually Shirayuki's father in a Yeti disguise who actually wanted to help out Tsukun but was mistaken by everyone. Afterwards, Tsukun and everyone head back after bidding Tsurara and her husband goodbye. One day, an ex-member of Yukai Academy's corrupt police force is heading to school with her head down while the students around her whisper about her past association. She then runs into a handsome chunk of a man called Ijuin, and even though she doesn't know him, she runs into his arms. Later Nikonome introduces everyone to Ijuin, who is a new transfer student, and all the girls lose their senses on seeing him. Tsukun's harem girls boldly declare that they prefer Tsukun over him, and Ijuin then roughly steps his foot on Tsukun's as he walks over to his seat. After class, a few girls surround Ijuin and he thanks them with his smooth words for helping him out, which makes them fangirl over him even more. During the lunch break, Yukari trips on a banana and Ijuin catches her easily. He then puts her hand on his chest to show her how hard his heart was jumping on seeing her hurt, and she begins blushing in response. Later during the sports period, Shirayuki is stalking Tsukun as usual when she comes across Ijuin. He flirts with her openly and asks her to show him her real smile. Even though she is cautious of him, she begins to smile like a loony case and even blush at his remarks. After the sports period, Kurumu picks up some balls when she runs into Ijuin as well, and he uses his charming words to seduce her as well. Suddenly she starts to take off her shirt and Mocha stops her just in time. She accuses him of planning something, but he uses his charming words to win her over as well. As she keeps talking to him, a strange spell takes over her body and she becomes enchanted by him as well. Gradually as time passes by, Ijuin seduces a number of girls and forms his own party which marches throughout the halls in their own uniform and style with Ijuin as their leader. Tsukun tries to approach his harem girls to talk to them about the club activities, but Ijuin's fangirls stop him and push him to the ground. Mocha and the others do not come to his side even though they want to, and Ijuin then takes everyone away. Tsukun reaches out to Jinai and asks him for his help since he believes that there is definitely something wrong with Ijuin. Jinai declares that he will expose Ijuin, but after a while, Ijuin seduces him as well and makes him fall in love with him. Ijuin targets Nikanome next and lures her into his trap in the hallway in front of everyone. She becomes enchanted by his words as well and joins his side in front of Tsukun's eyes. Meanwhile, Kokoa cannot find her bat Ko everywhere and goes from one class to another to look for him. She doesn't realize that the whole school has been enchanted by Ijuin and keeps searching for Ko everywhere. At the same time, Ijuin holds a concert where he sings to his army of fangirls and a lot of them dance for him as well. Tsukun rushes to the stage to stop him, but Ruby jumps in front of him and starts to hit him with a whip to stop him. Kokoa then barges inside and after seeing everything, she storms on the stage where she declares everyone to shut up. She senses that Ijuin is actually her bat Ko and Ijuin panics on seeing her as well. He starts to use her voice to lure her with his charm as well, but for a moment, his charm fails to work on her. He keeps trying to seduce her and finally the charm begins to overpower her, but just then, Mocha walks over to the stage. Tsukun jumps at Ijuin to attack him, but he ends up falling on Mocha instead and pushes off her rosary accidentally. She quickly transforms into the dark Mocha, who shoves the mic into Ijuin's mouth and kicks him hard. Ijuin tries to seduce her as well, but Mocha and Kokoa both kick him into oblivion, which makes him transform back into a bat. The spell over the other girls evaporates as well, and Mocha advises Kokoa that the original Mocha was really worried about her before transforming back into the normal Mocha. As the girls begin to gain consciousness, Kokoa walks out and wonders about the real Mocha for the first time. One day, Tsukun's cousin Kyoko decides to visit his school after becoming SUS of his friends. She somehow arrives at the site, and Kokoa runs into her on her bicycle. Both of their lunch boxes get swapped, and Kokoa then hurries off towards the school with Ko flying behind her. Kyoko then heads towards the school building as well and spots Tsukun right off the bat. She runs inside to meet him, but before she can do it, Kurumu runs into him instead and smashes his head into her plot. She shows off her tiny maid outfit, and just then, Yukari arrives and throws a pan at her head. Before she can jump on Tsukun as well, Shirayuki arrives and freezes her on the spot. Kyoko cannot believe the audacity of the girls to flock around Tsukun so much, and she even starts to think that the school must be related to some kind of weird entertainment industry. She then opens the lunchbox in her hands, which reveals a magic mirror inside, and much to her shock, a small fairy appears who introduces herself as Lilith. She declares that Kyoko is her master now, and Kyoko runs out the building scared, thinking someone is playing a prank on her. Lilith flies after her and explains to her that the school is filled with monsters, but Kyoko doesn't believe her. Lilith even shows her the true monster faces of some students nearby, but Kyoko believes that she is in some kind of special effects game. She declares that she is going to find out the truth about everyone, and Lilith accepts it as her master's dish, so she decides to make it true. One by one, Lilith shows the students their faces in the mirror, which transforms them into their true monster self and starts to take over the school this way. Meanwhile, Mocha and Tsukun are at the newspaper club when Mocha trips and falls on Tsukun. Ruby barges inside and informs them that a very precious mirror was stolen from the headmaster's vault, but just then, Jinai storms inside in his wolf form. He goes berserk as he takes everyone's pictures, and Mocha smashes the cupboard on him to knock him out. Tsukun and Mocha learn that the stolen mirror is called Lilith's mirror, which is transforming all the students into monsters, and they decide to help out Ruby to find it. Kyoko hides in a corner after seeing all the monsters and asks Lilith to stop turning everyone, but Lilith only flies away without listening to her. Tsukun is trying to find the mirror when he comes across Kurumu, who transforms into a succubus and jumps on him to seduce him. Yukari pushes her to the side and starts to come on Tsukun next, but Shirayuki freezes her and makes a move on him. The girls begin to fight with one another over Tsukun, and Ruby then arrives at the scene once again. She seems to have been enchanted by the mirror as well, as she asks Tsukun to give her a command. Ruriko spots Kyoko hiding and attempts to attack her, but Mocha jumps between them to stop her. A bunch of monsters appear behind Ruriko, and Mocha convinces Kyoko to have some faith in her. Both girls work together to retrieve the mirror, and Mocha looks into the mirror deliberately to transform herself into the Dark Mocha. The Dark Mocha threatens to take down Lilith, but when she looks into the mirror again, she splits into two Mochas. The two Mochas feel weak after splitting up, and Lilith uses their weakened state to attack them. Tsukun appears with his harem girls, and the harem girls reveal that the enchantment effect is wearing off because of Tsukun's smooth words. They then put blindfolds on their eyes to stop Lilith from enchanting them again, and with Kyoko's directions, they attack and Lilith defeats her in one move. Cocoa arrives at the scene and runs into the dark Mocha's arms, but just then, Ruby puts a cloth on Lilith's mirror which stops its effect on all the students and makes them transform back into their human selves. Suddenly the ground begins to shake and the Great Barrier which was shielding the school from the human world cracks a little. The sky begins to crack and show glimpses of the human world, whereas the same thing happens in the human world vice versa. Ruby reveals to everyone that the imbalance in the transformations has broken the rosary which was upholding the Great Barrier, and soon a lot of demonic energy will flow in the human world and summon violent demons who will wreak chaos. Mocha rushes inside after hearing her mention the rosary and runs up to the rosary which was upholding the barrier. She notices that the rosary looks just like her own rosary and recalls that the dark Mocha told her that she can never protect Tsukun in her weak state. She then asks Tsukun to take off her rosary in order to exchange it with the barrier's rosary, explaining that she wants to protect everyone, and Ruby assures her that the headmaster will come up with some other plan. Mocha ignores her and jumps on Tsukun to hug him. She then sneakily uses his hand to rip off her rosary and quickly replaces it with the other rosary which begins to glow brightly. Mocha declares that they will meet again one day, and the bright light then envelopes everything. The Great Barrier gets repaired and life at Yukai Academy resumes as normal, but the normal Mocha doesn't come back. The dark Mocha takes her place and a few days pass by in this way. Mocha blends in with Tsukun's harem girls in her cool way and even attempts to seduce Tsukun after seeing all the other girls do the same. One time, she finds Tsukun during the lunch break at the rooftop and asks him to stare into her eyes just like how he used to stare at her before. Tsukun looks away after a moment and confirms her suspicions that he is still thinking about the other Mocha, so she takes his hand and explains to him she is also Mocha. The other girls arrive at the roof to find the both of them deep in their conversation, and Mocha leans on him to drink his blood but gets stopped by the girls. She tells Tsukun to forget about the other Mocha and then walks away from him. The headmaster informs Ruby that the rosary which was protecting the Great Barrier and the one which Mocha was wearing were both made by the same person, and then tells her a secret related to the rosary. Tsukun calls his mom and she informs him that Kyoko has been crying about Mocha ever since she has returned from his school. She asks him whether Mocha is alright and also asks him to bring Mocha home during the next holidays. Afterwards, Tsukun heads home and Ruby finds him crying in the forest recalling Mocha. She decides to help him out and calls him out of his hostel later at night. She explains to him that she feels guilty about not being able to help Mocha and then lets him in on a secret which can save Mocha. The next day, the parents of the students visit the Yukai Academy for a Guardian Student Exposition event. Tsurara and Kurumu's mother Kurono argue with one another right off the bat, and they all then meet up with their children. Tsurara and Shirayuki declare that Shirayuki is going to marry Tsukun now, and she explains to the other harem girls that Tsukun has been very down after Mocha left them, due to which she wants to cheer him up. Kurumu declares that she is going to marry him as well, and the mothers begin arguing with one another once again. They all decide to leave the decision up to Tsukun and rush inside the class to ask him, but discover that he is missing. In the meanwhile, Tsukun heads towards the forest on his bicycle and comes across the dark Mocha, who tries to stop him. He ignores her and cycles towards the northern barrier where he can find the rosary's maker based on the information provided by Ruby. He recalls her warning that the maker doesn't like meeting new people, but he ignores every warning as he cycles straight towards the north. He crosses a tunnel and ends up at the north side where he spots a castle in the distance. A bunch of bats rush towards him, but somehow his eyes turn red and their power scares all the bats away. Cocoa watches everything from a distance and decides to stop him herself. As Tsukun cycles ahead, Tsurara appears and stops him in his tracks. Her minions pick him off his bike and Tsurara declares that he is going to get married soon to Shirayuki, which is brand new news to him. Shirayuki makes an entrance by jumping in the middle and asks Tsurara to let Tsukun go because she wants to help him achieve his task and become a perfect example of a good wife. Tsurara blocks her way along with other clan women and Shirayuki fights against them for Tsukun's sake. Yukari joins in her fight, and with the help of her mother, they all take on Tsurara while Tsukun rushes towards the castle. He reaches the bridge which connects to his location, and just then, Kurono dives at him with her wings. She flies away with him and uses her magic to enchant him, but just then, Kurumu rushes at her with full force. She hits and sends her flying into a valley below, after which she grabs Tsukun and safely deposits him outside the castle's door. She admits to losing to Mocha and Tsukun runs inside while Kurumu fights with her mother to stop her from getting to Tsukun. The fights outside continue while Tsukun runs inside and gets stopped by Cocoa next. She warns him that the maker of the rosary is Issa Shuzen, one of the big three demons who made the Yukai Academy, and that the person is actually Mocha's father, who is greater than an S-class demon. She believes that he will instantly get killed, but Tsukun decides to risk his life to get Mocha back. He runs inside and spots Issa holding a rosary. Issa sends him flying against the wall when he sees him and taunts him that a filthy human can never enter his place without permission. Tsukun gets up despite his injuries and Issa reveals to him that he created a separate personality for Mocha just to make her adjust in the human realm, but the humans always despised and isolated her. He blames Tsukun for taking advantage of Mocha's naive personality and attacks him again, but Tsukun gets up to argue with him. He declares that he will reunite with Mocha because he made a promise to her and suddenly his eyes become red. The power of Mocha's blood inside his body awakens and he temporarily gains vampire powers which he uses to attack Issa. In return Issa attacks him as well, and as both their powers clash against one another, Issa notices the dark Mocha standing at the door. Tsukun uses the distraction to snatch the rosary from his hand, but a second later he gets blown towards the door where Mocha catches him. She reveals that Issa was acting all along, otherwise he could have killed him in 1 second, and Issa decides to leave the rosary in his hands. Afterwards the castle collapses around them as Issa teleports himself out of the place and the other harem girls arrive to find Tsukun and Mocha together. Mocha asks Tsukun whether he is really choosing the other Mocha over her, and Tsukun explains to her that he cannot make a choice right now, but he wants to confirm his feelings after meeting the nice Mocha once again. The dark Mocha kicks him and sends him flying into the air, after which she drinks his blood one last time. She then puts the rosary on her neck which transforms her back into the normal Mocha, and finally Tsukun reunites with Mocha. The other girls decide to give Mocha one last moment of happiness and do not stop her as she runs into Tsukun's arms. Mocha confesses to Tsukun that she was really jealous of the other Mocha and then bites into his neck to drink his blood. Afterwards, Nikanome comes to pick up everyone and takes everyone back to the Yukai Academy where normal life resumes. Thanks for watching till the end, my fellow men of culture. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more anime recaps.